Do you think they have mileage out of that COVID thing at this point? What world do they live in?
Welcome back. It's Talking Truth to Power, Nevada's Freedom Talk Radio.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
And we're heard all over the world.
We sure are.
I'm your host, Brendan Trainer, and my co-host, Leland Faegre. And
it's beautiful here in the area, isn't it?
Yes, we dropped 20 points. I mean,
and then the winds.
That was a long, hot summer.
And the winds out of the east have blown the smoke.
Yeah, they're
back to California, where it belongs.
Oh, yes.
There can't be anything there left to burn,
yeah.
Can there? I don't know.
Maybe the recall petitions for Gavin Newsom, they might get burned accidentally.
And we'll try to touch on that in the show if we can.
Yeah, well,
because the West Coast is fond of recalling the people they elect.
Right. And you know, they almost never work, but still, if they're willing to put in that much effort, it shows that he's got some real enemies out there.
And I've signed the petition against Sisilak here.
Mm.
So I mean,
yeah,
it's fun to do that kind of stuff.
Right. And how many days till the election?
I believe it. I checked it earlier. I think it was 54.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the states have been getting their mail-out ballots, I think,
already
by this point.
Yeah,
you know.
Isn't that interesting that the assault on Trump's patriotism happened just as those ballots were going out?
Yeah, and just as just as the slur on his patriotism.
Yeah.
By a neocon happened just as the.
Is he a bona fide neocon?
Oh, sure. He's a longtime neocon. He supported the Iraq War.
The Atlantic editor? Is that the guy?
Yes. You know, these people get promoted up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a writer.
Nothing succeeds like failure.
Trying to find his name here. Oh gosh.
Yeah, they go in one ear and out the other.
Jeffrey Goldberg.
That's it. Yeah. Is he part of our Jews in the news segment?
Well, he should be, but not directly.
Okay.
Because Donald Trump. I almost wish he did say something about not necessarily in this context, but. At one point, he may have said something to Goldberg about how we were suckered into these European wars, but it doesn't mean that he said the troops were losers.
No, that's pure license.
Right.
That is pure license. Anybody that knows anything about him knows nothing like that could have ever come out of his lips.
Right.
I mean, we haven't had an American in the Oval Office in my lifetime until Trump. Mm-hmm. So that never came from him.
No. No, except for McCain. But McCain, is
he was never,
different situation.
As they say in British intelligence, he was never one of us.
Yeah, he...
yet he let him, he moved his casket around on Air Force One. And so, I mean, he was dignified about his disinterest in John McCain. But...
yeah, I mean... John McCain, was the darling of the left because he would always break with the right and
on everything,
including the repeal of Obamacare, which was the latest one.
Yeah, at 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. He was a member of the Council on Foreign Relations.
Oh, sure.
A pedigree globalist.
Right.
I mean, he had no business calling himself an American, really. Mm-hmm. And that may come as a big surprise to a lot of veterans, but the reality is that he was not really a genuine American. And that's why Trump has a problem with McCain.
Yeah, and he and his father suppressed the controversy over the Israeli attack on the USS Liberty.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there are some people...
A lot of people don't know he had a father.
He was an admiral.
Yeah.
And he was a reckless, rich flyboy. He destroyed at least one plane.
And the USS Liberty was taken down on his watch. I'd kind of like to know why.
Yeah. Why the Liberty was attacked?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it was to send a message to us.
Yeah, and it was under McCain's father's watch.
Yeah. And then McCain himself quashed the investigation in the Senate.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And, but it was John McCain himself that crashed a plane, and he was just a reckless, daredevil flyboy.
Apparently he was, by all accounts. I mean, even on the decks of those aircraft carriers, there's stories of him being reckless with the planes is legend, yeah.
And, this is not confirmed by any means, but there are substantial stories that he was not quite the war hero that he was made out to be.
Yeah.
That he was actually put up in a hotel and did propaganda for the Vietnamese. And, again, that's, who knows, but it wouldn't exactly fly against his character.
No, it would fit right in.
Yeah.
And he did seem to be an extremely bitter human being.
Right.
For some reason,
And he, another phony thing, he always railed against spending in the Pentagon, but he never voted against it.
Which takes us back to the topic.
Voting?
No, the slur on Trump's patriotism.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And his indictment of the industrial military complex, which is not new.
Right.
From Eisenhower on, we've had, a skeptical view of all of this, and it's healthy.
It is healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, we wish you would do it more often.
Yeah, like every day.
Yeah. And he wouldn't appoint people like the current Secretary of Defense, Esner, as a former Raytheon lobbyist. So.
Those guys would be non-existent in the establishment if that were the case.
Right.
Yeah.
But so if like the original America First was born in the 1930s, and it was to keep America out of World War II. And so if you're going to talk about America First or make America great again, I would like to think that he has that in mind.
Now that we have $3 trillion annual deficits, it might be the time to
think about it.
Yeah, put your ear to the ground and hear it. Yeah. Well, the good news is that America's comeback is now underway.
Right.
And the reason I know this is because I saw Trump's new ad this morning.
Oh, did you?
Did you know that 4,000 years ago, the Earth's magnetic field was 5 Gauss? Over the last 165 years, scientists have measured the Earth's magnetic field and found that today it is only...
GreatBasinHighway.com, Great Basin Highway magazine, radio show. Visit GreatBasinHighway.com and sign up for a free online subscription to our magazine.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Traynor, my co-host, Leland Faegre. And while they were slurring the president's patriotism, we have a press conference held by Biden immediately after that was so ridiculously staged. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, they showed they actually gave them a list of questions, and one young black girl said, "I'm not going to read this. I got my own."
Yeah, well, there was only about 4 or 5 people in that audience, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
And she apparently was handed the remarks rather than spontaneously contrived.
It's just basically, when did you learn that Trump stopped beating his wife?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Question.
Right, and then he had the answer for her.
Right. But
COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, It's taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it.
I am thinking about it.
More lives this year than any other year for the past 100 years.
That's a beaut. That's a beaut. And we apologize to our listeners. We were going to use that last week, and we didn't get around to it. But that's it. I mean, and he's reading the punctuations from the prompter.
Right. He can't. He's reading he's so intent on keeping it straight, the teleprompter, because if that goes away, he's lost. You know, entirely.
He's got nothing.
That he actually read the punctuation, like it said end quotation mark, and he read that out.
He read that out. Yeah.
Yeah, like my name, insert name.
Yeah. Insert name here. So now the suggestion is, and I haven't seen this with my own eyes, but others have, who are familiar with reading a teleprompter, that they're noticing that when he is asked a question by a compliant member of the fourth estate, he is immediately punched up on the prompter the answer to the question he gets.
Oh.
So he's actually answering a prompted response to the questions he's getting from the compliant media. What a rigged system that is, huh? That's why Trump is saying that he wants drug tests if he shows up at the debates.
Maybe he'd be given Alderol or something like that to keep him alert.
Something, yeah.
I am very willing to let the American public judge my physical and mental my physical as well as my mental fitness.
Well, that's good because we're doing that.
Yeah, and gosh, everybo's going to be turned into the first debate to see what happens to this guy.
It'll probably have record ratings.
Yeah. I can't imagine that he can. I can't imagine. But Trump has to hit him hard. He got very sensitive when Bernie brought up the Iraq War. I mean, if Trump has got to hit him where it hurts.
Oh, you're saying because he deflects to the care,
right.
The genuine I care about that kind of thing attitude that he's.
Well, that's Biden's strong point.
That's what they say.
Right. He's supposed to be emphatic, and he's supposed to be, but he just doesn't like to be reminded of all his. I mean, Trump could bring up that he wanted to cut Social Security several times, and that he voted for the crime bill, and he said that. The
Iraq War. I mean, he's got a deplorable
we'll put him
record.
away for jaywalking and stuff like that. We got to get him off the street. I don't care about poverty. I don't care what the background is. We got to get him off the street.
And plagiarism. I mean, how much of that is tolerable to the American people? I just don't see that it is at all.
And, his ratings are down among blacks and now Hispanics. We now have proof.
In Florida.
In Florida, but also in Nevada. I mean,
I'm sure it would be everywhere.
Yeah, Bernie beat him, Anna Navarro's got to get on the ball here.
Which raises the question as to who's actually managing this campaign. Because it's just dreadful. I think it's just dreadful. It's going to be, in retrospect, probably characterized as one of the worst managed campaigns. Of course, you're starting with Biden, so you don't really have anything to go by.
Right.
And it was probably, I think we can do this. The late night strategists come together and they say, we can pull this off. Joe can't, but we can put a teleprompter in front of him, and we can, because out of 25 candidates, this is the guy they came up with.
Yeah, I know. Because he's the one that's most likely to preserve the Obama legacy.
Status quo.
Right. Exactly. And that's who he's going to bring him in. I mean,
somebody should call these guys. That's why we voted for Trump. They say, well, you only took Hillary by 70,000 votes or 80,000 votes. Well, it's not going to be 70,000 or 80,000 this time.
I don't think so, but anything can happen.
Now, how can violence in the streets help Biden?
They thought it could. They think that they can manage these things.
Yeah, who are these people? That's my question. That's my ongoing question.
Not that the Trump campaign has distinguished itself up to this point because they blew $1 billion.
Well, but the federalism which restrains his actions in the streets is he's using very, very
Oh, yeah.
adroitly.
They want him to intercede.
Yes, absolutely. They're tempting him to.
You know, gosh darn, that fascist Trump won't send in the troops.
Yeah, what's he? You know, how much is he going to take? Well, they should know this by now. 4 years?
Uh-huh.
You're outmatched, people.
And they still keep making it about him, you know?
Trying to make it about him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're even using that in a Biden ad I saw, I think, yesterday. Yeah.
And shooting themselves in the foot, in the
Head,
process.
I think.
In the head, yeah.
It doesn't look good. I think they're covering how bad their internal polls are looking.
Mm-hmm.
You know the thing.
I think everybody's knowing the thing now.
Do you think he had to say the thing because he thought that the left wouldn't let him to say under God?
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
You'd
Or
love
he
to
just lost his train of thought, most likely.
You'd love to be a fly on the wall in these sessions because, I'm left with what the hell were they thinking?
Mm-hmm.
And I know we get we get into the weeds here. You and I do on this show, and we're always kind of living the political reality of civilization. But I think even people who are observing this from a distance are coming up with the same conclusions. Just at
Yeah, are they deliberately tanking?
Yeah,
They want to get
like they're deliberately.
There's no first round draft choice to get, so why should they be tanking?
And that was my point about Kamala Harris, was
Right.
that if she was the pick, they knew they couldn't win, because it would have been Hillary if they could use the 25th Amendment to bring her into the Oval Office. That was her ticket
Yeah.
into the presidency. And so when they selected her, they knew it was over. And I think it's been over since that day.
So if they can't decide who's president by January 20th,
Yeah.
would that mean that Nancy Pelosi becomes president?
Well, yes, but that's a statute
Yeah,
that would afford her the opportunity of that position
right.
briefly, temporarily. And I'm sure that statute would be challenged in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, if they had to, I think that they would probably move the inauguration back or something. I don't know what they would do.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like lawyers, you better step out of the room by the 4th of November, because they're going to be everywhere.
Podesta's supposedly has an army of 600 lawyers.
Well, Biden has hired 600. I bet you that's not enough. You're talking about those kinds of numbers of mail-in ballots. I mean, how many? I mean, this is just going to be a nightmarish scenario if it comes to that, and it sure looks like it will. Everybody's talking about it.
There's no doubt that a significant amount, like in the millions, 1 million or 2 million ballots are going to be disqualified or lost in the mail or
And then there'll
dumped
be
in
challenges.
a parking lot or
Yeah,
whatever.
well, there was a picture this morning in Los Angeles where some USPS mail was just dumped on a back loading dock. You know, I mean, how do you explain that kind of thing? You know, were those ballots? We've got enough examples
Right.
around the country.
Sure. Nobody thinks that the post office is, the greatest exemplar of efficiency and, that we have. Everybody knows the post office is prone to losing mail.
Including the employees themselves.
Right.
They know that.
Right. So it's going to be, this could be a full-blown constitutional crisis.
Oh, I think it
could be.
Yeah, it's all the earmarks of a constitutional crisis, no question about it. They can't win it without trying to steal it.
Right.
That's the whole deal. So it'll be a long and winding road to the executive branch for his second term. But I think he will prevail in all.
Unless it is an absolute 49 state to none blowout.
Well,
or to
I don't
one.
think 49 is possible anymore with Washington, Oregon, and California. But pretty close to that, a 47 state blowout. But even the popular vote mandate, which would help, doesn't preclude the counting of the mail-in ballots that were serviced on the 3rd of November that trickle in 3, 4, 5 days later.
Yep.
I just don't see it. I don't see a good seamless transition on the 3rd of November.
No. I mean, they're not going to be able to call this election at 6 p.m.
At 10 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah.
Even with a blowout. And I just, I hesitate to, it's really difficult to say that that's probably what we're going to see. But it sure looks like that.
We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Kelly Rush, CEO of America Matters Media, here to tell you about Reno Tahoe Mattress and Furniture. They have mattresses and furniture for 50 to 80%.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now, back to the show.
And hello and welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. And you can watch us streaming on our Facebook group, which is also called Talking Truth to Power right now.
And they can join that page as well. So,
yes.
Yeah.
And there are some lively posts and discussions there. So, unfortunately, sadly, we in this segment, we have to talk about the extradition trial for Julian Assange, which has started Monday in London after years of preliminary wrangling. And the first thing that the defense tried to do to keep him from being extradited to America on these bogus charges, technically he's just in there on jumping bail on a charge in Sweden that
which has been vacated.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
So he's not even there for that.
No. And he's been kept in maximum security prison. He's deficient in vitamin D. And he has a partner and 2 children.
But to be honest, everyone in England is deficient in vitamin D.
Oh, limeys. So the problem is that they have originally they were trying to get him for facilitating Chelsea Manning's hack, and that was patently absurd. In fact, I think one of the defense's things that the assistance he actually gave Manning was how to hack into a video game that Manning was playing.
There was a video game component to that
Yeah.
original charge, yeah.
But now they're trying to get him full-blown for treason under the Espionage Act. And if he is, if it does stick and he does get extradited to America, there is no First Amendment defense to the Espionage Act. He would not be able to even bring up a defense that he's a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems to be the plan. And it's ironic because another federal court recently has said that the NSA metadata collections that Edward Snowden exposed was unconstitutional. And therefore Snowden has been vindicated.
Mm-hmm.
But they're really going after Assange. I think one of the main reasons was he leaked the documents pointing to Vault 7, which was the CIA's ability to plant, false data in a computer program to indicate that it came from a Russian, or in the case was Russia. That was the most obvious case. They tried to say that Guccifer 2 was Russian because he had some Russian Cyrillic notes in the software, and Assange exposed the fact that the CIA had means to do this themselves, to plant this type of phony flags in the software.
Well, this goes directly to the complicity of the deep state.
Right.
And that's what they're concerned about. Further exposure of their grand design and how they use intelligence against us and those sorts of things.
And I remember where at that point CIA Director Mike Pompeo said that Assange was a non-state intelligence gathering.
Yeah, that description was really interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then Assange says that the CIA was a state non-intelligence gathering.
Yeah, right. That was a good retort. That's about as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
So they don't like being shown up. They don't like this smart Aussie.
Right. It embarrasses them. They're very thin-skinned, these people.
Yes, they are.
Because they don't really have a legitimate claim to the authority that they wield.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the worst kind of person of authority.
Right. Someone that's, trying to effect a cover-up. And so he's being held in the Old Bailey, or he's being tried in the Old Bailey. He's being held in the other prison,
right? Maximum
security prison. Mm-hmm. And he has a computer, but the keys are glued down.
Yeah, that's what you were mentioning. I hadn't heard that, but what would be the... how does that help their case to glue down his keys?
Well, he can't correspond.
Well, I know that part of it. But I mean, once that's declared, that the reputation is further eroded, right. And I can't imagine how that benefits them.
They think they can get away with it, and because the mainstream media is refusing to cover it, and not only the mainstream media, but I understand only one member of parliament wrote a letter asking about his case in the entire last year.
Did you get the parliamentarian's name?
No, I didn't. But
I'm going to look that up. I'm interested in that.
So he's being held in incommunicado. He's being physically and mentally deprived. And what we're really claiming is that we can arrest any journalist anywhere in the world.
And that really is where this is headed. Yeah. They want the ability to control the First Amendment.
Right. Or say the First Amendment doesn't apply to a non-U.S. citizen. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then he never signed the non-disclosure agreement. I think Snowden may have signed some kind of agreement, but he never did because he wasn't involved. He wasn't an employee of the CIA or anybody else. And but the American media is just refusing to cover it. So if you're not listening to Talking Truth to Power or on the web, ferreting out this information, Consortium News has got a constant watch on it.
The Fourth Estate, let's just be honest, it's worthless.
Right.
It's become absolutely
worthless. There's stenographers for the state. All they do is take the press releases, CIA press releases, rework it a little bit, republish it, They have absolutely and all they do is attack Trump for his personality.
Yeah. No validity whatsoever. Well, they're paying the price for it commercially, but, those interests, the financial interests of the propaganda media have deep pockets.
Right.
So they don't care whether they profit from their commercial ventures at all. It's just a propaganda, effectively a non-profit. It's a non-profit entity.
Right. And
it's hard to imagine, isn't it?
I know.
That it's come to this?
I know. This is no longer America.
This is
that
not
our
America.
theme song?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it is.
And both political parties are complicit in it. And at least Trump is the great clarifier. I mean, he makes the deep state expose themselves, to a degree that we haven't seen before, if you're watching.
He's quite amazing, this creature. And he's doing everything right as much as he can, and he's not getting any help, except for his close entourage and family, and those of us who are on the street, those of us out here.
Yeah, and another point that we probably didn't touch on in the first segment is that he has actually appointed an ambassador to Afghanistan that really, really, really seems to want to get us out. Mm-hmm. Person named Ruger, I think his name is.
Yeah, he's not joking about this. This is not just talk.
Right.
He wants the troops to come home. That's how you respect the troops. Mm-hmm. You don't commit them to these police state actions like Korea and Vietnam, which he was charged with the slur this week, It was a stupid war.
Right.
Undeclared war.
Right.
Unconstitutional war. 50,000 Americans lost their lives in that unconstitutional war. It was not one excuse, except that the corporate elites, the military-industrial complex, was profiting from both sides of that conflict.
Right. And, the military-industrial financial congressional complex.
But corporations were actually trading with enemy states. Mm-hmm. So they were killing American troops by proxy, by trading with enemy states. And for what? I mean, what was the actual point?
Right.
They now have a stock market.
Right. I know. They're basically friendly to us. They're friendly to Russia too. They don't like the Chinese. They're a pretty independent country.
Yeah.
And talk about interventions. The Vietnamese intervened in Laos and Cambodia to kick out the Khmer Rouge. Mm-hmm. That was probably the only humanitarian intervention that actually worked.
Actually worked well, yeah, because they had slaughtered a quarter of the population in Cambodia.
Right.
Ugliest thing ever, probably, up to that time anyway.
Right. So, and...
so it was a stupid war.
And, Brown at University has published a report that since 9/11, we have displaced a minimum conservative estimate of 37 million people have been displaced by the wars we started since 9/11.
Yeah. Syria comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly.
God. And how compliant the European Union was.
Right.
In taking those people in.
Well, we mentioned Macron, but it was Sarkozy that was eager to attack Libya and kill Gaddafi.
But I mean, they didn't complain to the people who were charged with messing up the region.
Right.
They didn't go after Clinton, for example.
Right.
She was untouchable. Isn't that amazing?
Right.
We've got to get to them.
Mm-hmm.
Slice their sandwiches every day, made right before your eyes. The port of Subway could be a smoking number 5 or a classic number 8, or maybe an Italian is your number 1 fave. Whatever you crave, prepare to fall in love.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now, back to the show.
Sounds Jewish.
Yeah. Well, it's time for another segment.
It's a segment of Jews in the News?
Jews in the News today.
Why did I'm always my face red?
And, of course, we have to give the obligatory Anti-Defamation League disclaimer that we recognize that Israel is our greatest ally. It's the only democracy in the Middle East, and they don't throw gay people off of roofs. And also, we acknowledge that any time and we see Jews behaving badly, we have to admit that always and everywhere, it's our fault.
Absolutely right.
All right, so we're going to talk a little identity politics today. And if you may be aware, Donald Trump issued executive order halting diversity race training that includes critical race theory, which is a real victory in the culture wars that somebody in the government actually came out and said that. And his memorandum to the heads of executive departments and agencies said that they have to cease and desist all trainings that say that virtually all white people contribute to racism, or racism is embedded in the belief that America is the land of opportunity. You can't say that. Or you can't say that the most qualified person should receive a job, because all those are inherently racist. However, we cannot, our employees can no longer receive training that seeks to undercut our core values as Americans and thrive division within the workforce. So critical race theory or white privilege or any other training or propaganda effort that teaches or suggests either that the United States is an inherently evil or racist country or any race is inherently evil or racist. So the reason why we're bringing this up in Jews with the News is because, as Gilad Atzmon and many other thinkers have said, identity theory, it comes from the Jewish intellectual movements of the 20th century. And, of course, we could point specifically to the Frankfort School for that.
Yep.
And there's a quote from author Leland. Now, our listeners may not be ready to accept all this right now, but we're just asking you to think about it. And
I hear there's a problem on 580. I'm looking at it right now. They're pulling over.
When your politicians are all bored or browbeaten by Jews, your Jewish media perverts all facts, your cities are in chaos and burning, your kids are confused, sexually confused and hating themselves if they're white, your common folk savagely caricatured and your religion relentlessly mocked, it should be clear by now that you're living in a world of Jewish shell games, mind rapes, and final solutions. And as Gilad Atzmon once said, Jewish power is their ability to keep you from discussing Jewish power. And Gilad Atzmon, if you don't know,
that's a talent right there.
Right. He is himself Jewish, but he's written extensively about Jewish identity, and he's paid the price for it. The former Israeli minister Shulamit Alani once explained candidly how this is done. He said, anti-Semitism is a trick. We always use it. So our culture and our heritage is in an identity crisis. Now, the Jewish Americans are only 2% of the population. So whenever we talk about Jewish power, we have to realize that it's in the context of proportionate to their representation in the population. And through their intelligence, we have to give them that they are normally extremely intelligent. Ashkenazi Jews supposedly have the highest collective IQ on the planet. But also through their ethnic networking, they are vastly overrepresented in fields that touch all Americans on a daily basis. Newspaper and broadcast media, motion pictures, law, finance are all dominated by Jews. They have changed the social sciences to fit their worldview. And that's documented how they have changed sociology to say that the race is just a construct, a social construct, instead of having a real biological and DNA-based, which current science is beginning to look into and question.
Give me a moment. Hey, Christian, notify security that we might need a little help in here in the course of the show.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we shouldn't say the word Jew because that'll get us in trouble. Maybe we should call them Khazars. Some people...
They won't know what that is, though.
Yeah, that's true. But... And we are in danger if we openly discuss their dominance. We're in danger of losing social status, financial security, and reputation. And this is not just recent. I mean, people began to realize that they could get into a lot of trouble for discussing what is which is called, quite frankly, the Jewish question, since the 1930s at least. The historian Hilaire Belloc has written about that. But and CATO magazine, CATO Institute, the think tank in Washington, the Libertarian think tank, recently put out a survey that says 66% of Americans are afraid to speak their minds on certain issues, right? Because of cancel culture. And
well, it's actually going into the workplace now.
Right. Oh, yeah.
That's the frightening part.
Right. It's not just
your job
in the public sphere. It's your job, your reputation, and so on.
That has to be stopped.
So recently we've experienced the 1619 Project, which states that the whole reason for the colonization of America was to promote slavery, and then critical race theory, which is what we're talking about, that a race is just a social construct, and anybody that thinks otherwise is a racist, and Black Lives Matter, not necessarily legitimate criticisms of police brutality towards black people, but actual, the actual Frankfort School propaganda, which is the mission statement of the Black Lives Matter that you can read on the website. And all of these ideas originate with Jewish intellectual movements, particularly in the 20th century. They're all racist. They're all meant to denigrate white culture, inculcate shame and guilt, divide and conquer with memes and diversity training and desecration of the statues to abolish our history and so on. Now, the trick that Jewish intellectuals always use is to point out the flaws in Western culture, but while pretending they do not have those same flaws themselves. That is verboten. You can't talk about that. So they talk about the way white people slaughtered the Native Americans while hiding how the Hebrews slaughtered the Midianites, the Amalekites, and numerous other peoples that you can read about in the Bible.
But that was for their own good.
Right. That was, of course, that was, Yahweh told them to.
Yeah.
And then they shamed the Founding Fathers for slavery while hiding that the Torah condones slavery and that the Jews played a significant role in slavery, including white slavery, throughout the centuries.
Sure.
And they claimed to be champions of the poor, while throughout history they have almost always aligned themselves with the wealthy. They condemn police brutality while ignoring the constant brutality they subject the Palestinians to. The Jewish people in America are wealthier on average than most Americans, but they are the perpetual victims. Gilad Atzmon, again, has written a very apt phrase when he says, the Jews are the only people that suffer from pre-traumatic stress syndrome. They're always nervous.
Traumatic.
Pre-traumatic instead of post-traumatic. They're always nervous that a new Hitler will arise to reopen the ovens. In order to prevent that, they work assiduously to keep white Christians divided and confused while gaining privileges to maintain their own distinct identity. So, if we don't speak up soon, there's going to be nothing left of Western culture to talk about.
Yeah, it really is a serious period of history we're in right now. I don't think people really fully have a grasp of how serious it is.
Right.
They know something's wrong, but they just can't quite put their finger on it.
Right. I just found out that the statue of Voltaire in France has been removed from in front of the L'Académie Française.
Is that right?
Yeah. And so, France used to be the beacon of, what other historical event can you be put in prison for criticizing except for the Holocaust? And if in America it's still legal to criticize the Holocaust, but you can, like we said, you can be canceled. You can pay a price. So it's, and the solution at least is to talk about it. I mean, I'm not advocating anything that would make us more shameful than the Jews are in their behavior.
But they don't push people off of buildings.
No, they don't. They don't push gays off of buildings. Yeah. No, they're friendly to gays. Yes. So some people have pointed out.
I like to give people credit where they deserve it.
Yeah, but some people have wondered whether the cognitive dissonance inherent in Jewish culture may be a reason why so many Jews are, in fact.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's Woodward's turn.
All right.
Bob Woodward's book is coming out called Rage.
Oh.
A brutal look inside the White House chaos.
I believe everything Bob says.
Not yet.